The Wolf Den by Elodie Harper, published by Head of Zeus Books, and this is the first book in a trilogy. It opens in AD 74, so that's 5 years before AD 79, when Vesuvius erupted and literally obliterated Pompeii, where this novel is set. I have been to Pompeii and I have marvelled at the structures, the remains, and the wonderful frescoes that you can still see with their really, really strong colours, the graffiti, and all this comes to life in The Wolf Den. This is the story of Amara. Amara grew up in Greece. Her father was a medic and he died, and that eventually left her mother and herself actually quite impecunious, and the only option in those days was for her to be sold into slavery, and via a circuitous route she ends up in the notorious The Wolf Den, which is a brothel in the heart of Pompeii. This is as much her story as about the dynamics of the women within the brothel and the claustrophobic atmosphere of the oil lamps that were burning, in these very, very dark rooms where the girls had to work. The author is quite circumspect about what she shares about the goings on in a brothel, but there are some really interesting glimpses of their lives with the men that they have to service. She talks about contraception, and it's just, it's a fascinating picture of what life probably was like. She takes them out, they go for food, they go to the sea, they walk along the cobble streets, and I think what is quite striking is how densely populated Pompeii felt. And of course that's really strange for us these days in COVID times, when we are avoiding meeting up with people. So she talks about the graffiti, and Amara and Menanda, who's a friend of hers, leave graffiti for each other, because that's how you contact each other. If you're all slaves, you are at the will and the whim of your master. So it is Felix who runs the brothel, and he is quite a character, obviously, but it is worth staying on his good side. So Amara, with all her skills and her education, can get herself in that. She's determined not to stay in the brothel forever, because once you have been bought as a slave, your master can do with you what you want, and that is quite a salutary thought, that slavery then, there's also slavery today, so it kind of gets you thinking about life. She also meets Pliny the Elder, who is the admiral of the fleet, and he played quite a big part later, in the years later, when Vesuvius actually erupted, and she gets herself into the slightly higher echelons of society because she has skills. She can play music, and that is her way in to expanding her life. When I went to Rome, it's a similar situation there, because you have lots and lots of ruins, and understanding how they might have been is quite something. And when I went to Rome, I read Alberto Angela's A Day in the Life of Ancient Rome, which helped me understand, a bit about, what life might have been like, how a day would pan out, the kind of food you would eat, the dormice, the wine, the honeyed wine that you would drink. And I think that is a nice way that Elodie Harper actually brings Pompeii to life, how it might have been. So when you go and you see the ruins, you can have a little sense of what people's lives were like. So if you're heading for Pompeii, The Wolf Den is definitely one to pick up.